owned company launches 2 crypto funds in Hong Kong. One of China's leading insurers has backed the establishment of 2 crypto investment funds in Hong Kong. The business move comes against the backdrop of the region's ambitions to become a hub for digital assets, and despite the negative regulatory attitude towards the market in the mainland. A Hong Kong-based company, part of the China Pacific Insurance Company, CPIC, Group, has joined forces with Waterdrop Capital and established 2 investment funds in the special administrative region that will concentrate on the industry built around blockchain.
Very critical of the Beijing government, has decided to print its last edition. It marks the end of free press in Hong Kong, essentially. And the publication's demise comes after the government froze its funds, seized computers, arrested executives, and this was all to stop their critical view of Beijing being printed. So it's a pretty intense situation over there. And most of you know, last year Beijing imposed the national security law in Hong Kong, which basically undercut the two countries, 2 systems rule that they actually had in place and was meant to be in place for a long time. And then the security law came in and undercut all of that. And since then, it's really been absorbed into China. Now, from the cryptocurrency scene, we're talking about frozen funds there. We're talking about their inability to actually continue. I wonder if crypto could have played a role, although it seems that the crackdown would have continued to, target individuals regardless of what funding they have. But Hong Kong has also kind of been this bastion for exchanges that didn't want to be considered Chinese and sort of went offshore and then went to Hong Kong. So, the government's clamping down more and more, and I wonder how much longer that sort of thing will continue. But I'll throw this to the group. Ben, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on everything that's going on there?
Yeah, it's really just disappointing to see. I was reading this story, and it's a continued crackdown that we're seeing in China, sort of, tossing away the idea of civil liberties and really quashing any sort of dissent that we see. And I think it's something we're going to continue to see happen. We're seeing this alongside crackdowns on mining and the like. So it really does seem like the government's trying to consolidate all the control it can. And, this is why also we talk about the ideas of CBDCs and stuff as concerning, because when you see it alongside all of these other signals, it's an indication that there's not going to be an appetite for agency or independence amongst these sort of things. And then we kind of look at it through that lens generally. But in this one in particular, I was kind of racking my brain, right? I was like, what could have stopped this? To your point, I don't think crypto really could have played a role. I was thinking about decentralized, networks, and if that could have helped, shut this down. Obviously, if you're not living in China or in Hong Kong, there's likelihood that you're not going to get arrested for these things, so you continue to critically support or report there, but you're disconnected from the place that you're actually reporting on. And so, we talked about CNN's NFT vaults on prior shows, and I was wondering what role NFTs might have been able to play here, but I'm also not sure if they're taking down, the web pages, or they're deleting previous stories and the like. That's a little unclear to me. So not a lot of answers here, a lot of disappointment, but Will, I'll toss this one to you.
Yeah, I just from this story, pretty tough topic for today's show. I think overall, just a reminder that totalitarian regimes didn't die out in the 20th century. China is still putting people in concentration camps. They're still threatening, intimidating Taiwan. And it's not surprising that they're going into Hong Kong and shutting down newspapers that are not in their favor. So I think in the Bitcoin space, this kind of reminds us why we care about the technology and why we care about the promise of cryptography itself, as opposed to just number go up every day, which is also pretty fun. But the main point of why most people are into Bitcoin is because they're freedom loving. And hopefully one day we see a world where you can mine Bitcoin in China, and you can trade Bitcoin in China, and you can interact and move all around China. And once it's a free country again.
Jenna, so your hand go up.
Yesterday we spoke about, CBDCs pushing mainstream audiences to learn more about Bitcoin and what that means when it comes to freedom in the financial system. And I wonder if this is what it's going to take to push that mainstream audience to learning more about decentralized communication, decentralized socials and media. Naomi, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I visited Hong Kong at the start of last year to interview protesters because it was right in the midst of all of the chaos there, with, stores being burnt down and all that sort of stuff. And it was interesting because I wanted to see what crypto was like. And it wasn't really that pervasive. I chatted to the people at the Hong Kong Bitcoin Association. They were awesome. They were, doing what they could to educate people, but it's largely a cash culture there. You kind of have the octopus card, which is like the all-encompassing, use it for your train, use it to buy your groceries, use it to track your every movement and everything that you do kind of card. Or people were like, I'm cash only, and there were lots of stores that were cash only. So it was like, it's a big jump from a cash only economy to a crypto economy. But it shouldn't be that big a jump from like an octopus card economy. But I do understand that there's not really, a lot of incentive for people to explore the technology unless they're being specifically targeted. But Ben, I'll throw it to you for some final thoughts.
And I just want to bookend this conversation before I transition us to our next story by noting that, I've gotten pushback from listeners and viewers of this show around us focusing too much on China, too much on Russia, for example, and not focusing on the US. So I just want to note too that there was reporting from the New York Times last night that showed that the Saudi individuals who killed Jamal Khashoggi, a op-ed columnist at the Washington Post, at the behest of MBS, the dictator of Saudi Arabia, were in fact trained on U.S. soil under a State Department contract. So we're not turning a blind eye to the U.S. also being involved in this and quashing dissent in other places. And I thought that was just a good way to sort of note